Thank you, Lorena. I would just like to add to Lorena's responses. For the person asking on the achievement of the MDGs, there's also a very recent report by the World Bank that is dealing with that issue, which is very good. And then I would like to recommend you a website, the Gender and Disasters Network website, which always also publishes many case studies and reports of disasters and the relation to gender. And may I ask Irene to continue?
Okay, I hope that the flowers don't fall. Let's see. Oh dear, I'm destroying them. I have in front of me 2 questions, but there were also some pending questions from earlier during the presentation. So I tried to also go into them a little bit more later. The first question is, how can we assure that climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction doesn't become another burden for women? I think this is a very relevant question, because that's something which is always in the air. When we think, oh, this is relevant for women's livelihoods, we have to involve them, they have to participate, they have to share their experiences, they have to come forward, they have to prepare, they have to attend meetings. It costs at least time, and time is something which includes energy, and energy is of course very scarce, human energy of women. The best way as far as we know, is to really listen to what their needs are, what their perspectives are, before we start any intervention, either in climate change adaptation or disaster risk reduction, so having the bottom-up approach. And on the other hand, to do a gender audit of our plans or apply a gender analysis. And during the process, because it's not only when we start, but during the process of implementation of disaster risk reduction projects or initiatives and climate change adaptation projects, we have to be we have to have very clear, and nobody mentioned it up till now, but gender-specific indicators for monitoring and evaluation. And I think in those, the voices of women have to be included. So it's only through that specific perspective that we can avoid that. Then another question which came up is to promote participation of children in climate change and in disaster risk reduction. There is a need to include these subjects in school curricula, and this is to ensure wider dissemination of information. This is not so much a question as already a comment, but I would like to add to that that there is a whole network of educators around the world who are involved in sustainable development. As you might know, this is the United Nations Decade on Education for Sustainable Development. And of course, when we talk about sustainable development, climate change and disaster risk reduction should be part of that. I know that there are many local and national initiatives, even regional initiatives on education for sustainable development, and that at global level, the educators who are unluckily not recognized major group in the Agenda 21, but they have organized amongst themselves. So there is lots happening, and I think exchange on these issues is important. So that's what I have. Oh yeah, and then with regard to the questions which were raised earlier, we already mentioned migration, and of course there are many migration studies available which look at the gender-specific elements of migration, and I already mentioned the recent symposium or the Congress in Bonn of the United Nations University on these issues, but also in the series of studies done by the Human Security Network, there was one specifically looking at migration, and it also looked into gender aspects related to climate change. So we will make sure that the link, the website link to those studies becomes available on the web as well. Goa, being a coastal region in India, for all of you to know, is as many coastal regions are very sensitive to climate change. And of course, I don't know if adaptation plans have been developed for that region already, but it's important to include at least representation of women's groups or women in the development of adaptation plans there. But also to look into to do some monitoring and reporting, so documenting the gender-specific impacts which are already happening in that specific region, coastal region in India, and there is also a network of women on gender and coastal management, and I think there's lots of information to be shared. So the person who raised that question and others who are interested can come to us as well. That's what I had for the moment. And food security and environment, or the farmers' burdens and the health issues have been tackled already.
Okay, just quick answers on some of these. Someone asked, how do we go about signing up to the Global Gender and Climate Alliance? That's easy. Get one of these. Go out that door, take a left. First booth, you'll see one of these. On the back of it, there's an email address. That's my email address. You contact me and I'll set up a time to talk to you or provide you with more information as necessary to be a part of us. Second one is how can or will we influence the Doha outcome on financing for development? Is Elizabeth Aylor here? Did Elizabeth Aylor ask that question perhaps? Not here. Okay. I know that we do, and Kate's here, perhaps she could help with this. Kate here, put your hand up, blonde hair. We do is putting together, has done a lot of work on financing for development and is actually doing some case studies on, in Uganda and Philippines and Uganda on financing and climate change, and they'll probably have the best resource for financing for development. There is right now almost no connection between the climate change work and the financing for development world. So talk to Kate about that if you're interested in that. Also, Heinrich Böll Foundation is thinking about doing some work on gender and climate change in the financing for development process. Let's see here. Oh, regarding the slide on my presentation, what role can the delegates from countries missing in that list of the NAPAs do to facilitate completion of the action plans, and any experience on best practices we can borrow from? I think the best thing for people that are interested in learning about this is to connect you with other countries, kind of South-South collaboration, and I would suggest Ghana is one country that's doing quite a good work on gender and climate change at the national level. Vietnam has some interesting work from the Environmental Ministry and the NAPA. Maybe Vietnam is here already, you can talk to each other. And lastly, I would actually suggest Senegal, because even though they don't have a lot of good language yet on gender and climate change, there is a very strong woman, Madeleine Diop-Sarr, who we work with at We Do, who is actually in charge of the climate change process at the national level. So she could provide incredible insights from Senegal. I'll stop there.